Hey, what's up everybody? BDO44 coming at you with another video. Alright, so sitting here getting ready to put my meal together, listening to Draymond Green talk about Kevon Looney, and then I realized that I needed to make some content before I even ate. Because this is a very important aspect of what's going on with the LA Lakers and the Golden State Warriors, which will be starting up tomorrow at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. And Kevon Looney is coming into his prime right now. He's that very interesting age between the old guys and the young guys, um, and has to be considered in regards to that. We've been looking at him for a long time as a complementary role player, right? He's a complementary role guy, someone who's going to do a lot of dirty work for Draymond Green and assist him with being the paint presence for their team. But what we got to understand is he's in year probably like 7 now. I think he has probably either 1 or 2 championships with that team. Maybe even was a part of a third. I'm not sure, but he is basically in that age where everybody is playing their best ball. That range where you're entering your prime, where you're absolutely your peak and playing great. That's where he is, and nobody else on that team, in my opinion, is that age. Jordan Poole ain't got there yet. Clay and Steph have already passed that point, even though Steph Curry is Steph Curry, so he never actually leaves that. But a guy like Wiggins, you can consider maybe the same. Him and Wiggins, they're like in their prime right now. Definitely both of them. So that's what I want people to understand. We need to prioritize defenses and overall managing them. Manage them. Because one thing I learned about the Golden State Warriors last year, and I don't know if this still reigns true, we will do homework on them to try to figure out a little more about their team this year. But last year, they were a team that didn't lean on Clay and Steph as much as they did their wings. At the time, it was Gary Wiggins, Otto Porter at the time, Bielitsa at the time. That was how they really got a lot of their production, was off of the strength of Kevon Looney, of course. And you know what I mean? And Steph Curry would of course, be the bulk of what would go on. And then Clay was trying to work his way back from injury. So the way they really destroyed teams was off of Wiggins, Gary, and Looney and those guys. That was the meat and potatoes. And Steph and Clay were kind of like the symbol. Well, Steph and Clay have much bigger roles this year than they had last year. Make no mistake about it. Klay Thompson ain't no symbol this year. He's intricate. He's putting up 30 and 40 and all of that. And he'll probably have one of them games somewhere in these playoffs. We know it's coming, so we need to be ready for all of those possibilities. But the point is if they work the way they did last year in any way, they still are a team that wins off of rebounding and defense. Rebounding, defense, and interior scoring. That was how they won the championship last year. That's how they got through the playoffs last year. It's what made them as champions as they were. It made them as good as they were. It was not the three-point shot last year. It wasn't. And that's coming from studying them very, very closely from game to game to game last year. It was like they used the three-point shot as a jab, so to speak, as I often reference in boxing. You throw the jab out there to set up what real punch you're trying to throw. That was how they used the three last year in the playoffs. It was definitely something that they could go to, but it wasn't what made them go. They could have a cold knife from behind the arc and still beat you because of how they actually constructed themselves last season. So they still have a lot of those same players. As I said, Clay has a bigger role now. Jordan Poole's role doesn't seem to make as much sense this year for some reason. They got Dante DiVincenzo now, so it's a bit more perimeter shooting, scoring going on this year. Less defense this year in some ways. They don't have Bielitsa, so that stretch four is gone. Some of those players that they have this year in those roles aren't as productive as some of those guys they had last year. Now you got Moody stepping forward. You got Patrick Baldwin back there. So again, even more three-point shooting, less defense, less depth. Kuminga has a role that's stronger this year, so you're going to see more of him this season. You're going to see him on the floor. He hasn't really played that great against the Lakers, but I don't know if that holds any weight in the playoffs. That's a very strong, ascending young player, and if he has a big series, we could have a bad series. So we need to keep a stranglehold on him as well. So that's what it is. I just want people to see what I see in regards to the Warriors. and remember what it is that there is to remember about them last year and study and see if that's what's going on this year. Because they were a get it out the mud kind of team last year with a very pretty cape over that understanding. You know what I mean? You still saw them the same way, and a lot of people don't know that's what they were doing last year, but they were champs because they were doing it the right way. They were getting it on the boards, they were getting it in defense, and they were getting it inside. And so this year I've been watching them, and they've kind of gotten away from that in the regular season a little bit. They became more three-point eccentric, jacking up like 53s, hitting 10 of them on some nights, stuff like that. If they don't get back to what it is that ultimately got them the championship last year, I don't know that they can beat us in this series. I don't know. And the thing about it is, I don't know that we're going to allow them to do what it is that they did last year. If they would have came up against us last year and as constructed this year, we might have stopped them from getting that championship, just from the sheer understanding that what we stop is what they did. All that interior scoring, that's what we stop. Rebounding, that's their strength. That's what we do. So these are things that I'm looking at. I'm saying we attack the Golden State Warriors just the right ways to where, it's going to be hard for them to scheme around us. It's going to be hard. And Steph Curry's going to have to really, destroy what we're doing out there, basically, by hitting a bunch of perimeter shots from all over the court and winning his matchups against our guards, our speedy guards, like Dennis Schroeder, Austin Reeves, whoever we put on him, Vanderbilt. He's going to have to win those battles and make those guys look silly by hitting a bunch of three-point shots to kind of help his team. The one thing that I don't know what I can really expect from this player is Jordan Poole in this series. And the reason why I say I have no idea what I'm expecting from him is because I really don't know where he fits in. As I said, his role on this team looks kind of funny to me right now. They can't quite get him enough shots to make it make sense. And when they do, he's never really as efficient as they need him to be. So it's a really strange situation where they're probably best if they just go with Gary Payton or try to go big, play Kevon a bit more, play Dre a bit more, so that they can match up with our size. I haven't really the understanding to know if either we're going to look to match up with their wings or they're going to try to go big and try to defend Anthony Davis with bigger players. But I have a weird feeling that they're just going to surround Anthony Davis with guys like Draymond Green and Andrew Wiggins. They're just going to throw double teams and triple teams at him. And if Anthony Davis is going to help us, he's going to have to find ways of scoring and getting passes off in those situations. We've had trouble with him scoring the ball when teams crowd him out. We know that the double team has been an issue, even though from what I understand, I think it was As It Stands, I don't remember who broke it down, but they said that the numbers of his pick and roll double teams, not pick and roll, but the double team situations is a lot better than what we think in terms of him scoring the ball per possession. He actually scores 1.8 per possession when double teamed or something like that. 1.8 points, which is pretty good from what I understand. So if, as I take that data from him, I just consider the fact that AD is an underrated player when double teamed. But nevertheless, to the eye test, it looks like we struggle quite a bit, and we've lost games because we couldn't get him going in those situations. So I expect the Golden State Warriors are going to crowd him out just as much as Memphis did with JJ and Tillman. We're going to have the same dynamic down there with Looney and Dre, and they are going to be probably just as devastating defensively in some ways, especially with Looney rebounding the ball the way that he is. 3 of the 7 games he had over 20 boards. That's why I wanted to get on here and let everybody know that he's in his prime right now. And he's playing like Dennis Rodman. It's not a fluke, and he may continue to rebound like that against us, especially if we throw 3-guard ball handling lineups out there against him. And I know that's what Coach wants to do because that's something he truly believes in. So he's going to believe in it against the Golden State Warriors. But I assure you, if we try to send our guards versus their guards, they're going to make us look as silly as that's supposed to look on paper. That is Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Andrew Wiggins, Jordan Poole. They're going to beat, Dennis Schroeder, D'Lo, Austin Reeves. That's not our strength in this series, y'all. I'm just telling you the truth. Our guys should be productive. But if we're just going to throw, Troy Brown, you know what I'm saying, and Austin Reeves at those guys just because they're matching up small, we're going to get our butts whooped. It ain't going to be pretty. Our strength is in our length with Anthony Davis and LeBron James overcoming the matchups in front of them with those bigs. We're going to have to, and our guards are going to have to hit shots off of them. Off of them. And so we got to get it right, man. Because if we try to go guard-centric here and think we're going to shoot Steph Curry down bucket for bucket, boy, reality's going to hit us. It's going to hit us, and it's not going to be pretty. So we got to know where we trump them in this series, and it's with Anthony being dominant, Anthony being hard to guard, and ultimately Anthony drawing so much attention that it opens up things for all of us. So that's what I need to see the Lakers do. Put players on the floor that can definitely score on the Golden State Warriors. Golden State Warriors play a strong brand of defense, and with Looney rebounding like this, you just can't expect to have too many possessions and expect for them to get multiple possessions, which really hurts us. So we gotta crash the glass. The defensive boards is everything for us. Everything in their possessions at one, because they're gonna hit a lot of shots. So the ones they don't make, they need not keep. Long shot, wrong rebound. As we know, we didn't rebound as well as we would have liked to in Game 7. As I look back on, I think we did win the rebound total, but they did get quite a few offensive boards. So I think that's been something that we've consistently given up a lot in this last couple of weeks or so. Our opponent has had a lot of offensive rebounds, so we just need to crash the defensive glass in ways that we haven't, and that comes from coach putting enough rebounders on the floor throughout the game to make sure that our rebounding numbers are up. And so that brings me back to the lineups that we saw in Game 5 that we couldn't stand. The three-guard lineups with Schroeder and Beasley and whoever else he would put in those lineups. Troy, it's just something that we really can see may be there to match up, but it's not going to be a good matchup. For us, that's not the way to match up. Those are players that play those positions, but they're going to get outclassed in every way possible if you do that. So right now, what I'm looking at is just a lot of three-point shooting, and I think because they have so many players on this team that shoot the three this year, they probably are going to overshoot it. And if they don't discipline against that, it plays right into our hands. And I'll tell you right now, Steph Curry shooting 10, 11 threes is fine. Klay Thompson shooting 10, 11 threes is fine. That's just going to be what it is. But once you start getting into other players, and if Jordan's attempting 10, he probably ain't going to hit but 3 of them. Jordan Poole don't have too many hot nights from behind the arc, even though he's so gifted. It just don't translate to efficiency at all. Dante DiVincenzo, if he's attempting like 8 and 9, only hitting like 2 of them, that's not good for them. Wiggins, he can tend to shoot it a lot. He's a very good 3-point shooter, but some nights ain't as good as others. And so these type of things, if we can have nights like that happen, where they overshoot and don't shoot well, we gotta secure those wins. Those are games we must win. We can't have a situation where they shooting 20% from behind the arc and hit like 12 of them and still get the victory. I can tell you that's a series we're not going to be doing too well in if those games we drop. Because they definitely going to have the games where they go for 45% and shoot like 25 of them, hit all of them and all that. So we need to just be careful with the Golden State Warriors and know that they're going to shoot the ball probably more so than anybody else out there, just because of how many players they have that shoot the three. Which I think is a mistake, to be honest with you. For Myers to invest so much in three-point shooting, it just gets a little redundant after a while. It's like, all right, buddy, you got Steph and Klay. Those are 2 greatest shooters to ever play the game. Now you put Jordan Poole on the team. He's also a uniquely gifted shooter. All right, now you went and got Patrick Baldwin. He is a shooter, fantastic shooter. You got Moses Moody. He's a fantastic shooter. You got DiVincenzo. He shoots the 3 very well. Wiggins shoots the 3 pretty well. So you start looking around. It's like when you have that many players that shoot the 3, they're going to come on the floor and do what it is that they're good at, which is going, by way of just sheer nature, is going to turn you into a 3-point shooting team, an overshooting 3-point shooting team. So in order to undershoot, you got to ask some of those guys to come in and do things that they're not best at. It's like, all right, Moses, come in and focus on your defense, focus on driving at the rim. But it's like, yeah, but I can shoot the 3 really well. A guy like, and so it becomes a situation where just by sheer default, every night, you got the Golden State Warriors attempting far too many 3-point shots just to be strong. And so that works against them, and I just think that it's a mistake. They got too happy with the 3. Overshooting the 3 is a problem on the floor. You need guys that could get pressure on the rim. You need to be able to have defenses struggling in pinball machines. If everything you do is shooting 3s and passing around the perimeter, you're letting the defense kind of sag back, that turns into very strong offensive possessions for those same people because they ain't working too hard on the defensive end. They just watching you shoot. If you brick, they rebound, they get in transition, they dunk the ball. So it's like the Golden State Warriors set themselves up for overshooting just by how they paid all these damn shooters. You only need Steph and Clay and maybe like Jordan Poole. After that, the rest of them damn shooters should probably just be other players that have other strengths that complement the shooting. So I just think that they got a little greedy, or they anticipated moving on from Steph and Clay for some reason and wanted to have their successors in order. I don't know what it was, but just because you're the Golden State Warriors does not mean that everybody on your team has to have the strength of shooting the three. And because that is how they are constructed this year, I do not like them against us. That's a bottom line. You got too many guys that look for threes when they come in the game. And not enough guys that's driving to the rim when they come in the game. So the guys that do drive at the rim, you're asking them to drive too much. You know what I mean? Or you're asking players that don't drive to do more driving. And so as a result, that can be a little funny for them. In a series like this where we got a bit more balance and parity to what it is we do. A bit more size to throw at you and strength instead of just doubling down on the same thing we got over and over again. You know what I mean? Jordan Poole should be an entirely different type of piece. That's what I'm here to tell you. Jordan Poole should probably be Wiseman. That's probably what should have happened there, to be honest with you. That's probably what should have happened. They should have not paid Jordan Poole all that money, and they should have taken some of that money that they were going to give to Jordan Poole and make sure that they kept Wiseman. Because what they need is somebody that they can put down there with length that can offset the length of the players that we have. Even though we ain't going to use Mo Bamba, if we were to go AD Mo Bamba, they're going to have a hard time rebounding the ball like they've been rebounding. Ain't going to be no 20 rebounds down there if we utilize our personnel to stop them from rebounding. Now, we may leave other things open, but that whole Kevon Looney getting 20 boards crap, we got the personnel to stop that. Like, could simply put it into. And that's the problem that the Golden State Warriors are going to run into. They don't have, because they triple down and quadruple down on shooters, they really don't have what they need to throw at us to neutralize our strengths. They ain't got nothing to stop, like honestly stop LeBron James from driving at the rim repeatedly. They really don't have that person. It's going to be Draymond Green picking up fouls and Kevon Looney picking up fouls. That's what that is. Bron getting to the line. And so you look at stuff like that, it's like, okay, well, if they would have had a little quicker kind of Grant Williams or Jeremy Grant type, they would have, or Vanderbilt type, instead of giving $200 million of Jordan Poole when they already got shooters, they'd have been in a much better position to defend what's in front of them. So it's like they're struggling with the Sacramento Kings. Should they have really struggled with the Sacramento Kings when they paying this much money in luxury tax? Nah. They should have had the pieces represented in those players to defend whatever it is that's coming at them so that they didn't have these troubles. And so when you double down on the same thing over and over again, you leave yourself without that other stuff, then it's just like, okay, we just coming and shooting the ball. And if we hit 53s, then of course we leaned into our strengths. But on an NBA basketball floor, that is not how you're going to win a championship. You're not. You may be able to have 2 games where you shoot like crazy and just blow the other team out, but the rest of them games, you're going to brick most of those, and it's going to turn into transition buckets, as I already said. And that's why I like us a lot against this Golden State Warrior team. It's not just about X's and O's, or rather, who won last year. It's can they duplicate what they did last year with who they have this year? And the answer is no. No. They miss Otto Porter. They miss the idea of Wiseman, because obviously they didn't have him last year in the playoffs. But to me, it's just they didn't have to run into Anthony Davis, Vanderbilt, LeBron James, Rui Hachimura. At no point in time during their championship run last season did they run into anybody that could stop them from rebounding, stop them from scoring in the paint, and force them to overshoot. And because they weren't constructed like they are this year, they never would have overshot. This year, they're going to be out there launching threes against the Lakers, and they're either going to fall or they're not. And so what the Lakers need to do is just respect the perimeter, play the perimeter well, and then make sense of what it is that they're seeing out there as the games progress. Because I'm telling you, this Golden State Warrior team has some glaring weaknesses that we can definitely attack. And at the end of the day, their best bet, as I told you guys, is to 5 forwards, basically, guards and forwards. Small ball is their best bet, and it's not going to work against us. It ain't. They're going to need Looney, and they're going to need Dre on the floor, and that's going to leave them at an offensive disadvantage in certain cases. They're just not going to be able to get the plays off they're going to need to keep up with the different stuff that we're going to have on the floor, especially with Vanderbilt and AD being disruptive. Their offense ain't going to be smooth. They used to playing against Sacramento, whose best defense is offense. And, of course, Davion Mitchell, of whom they didn't use it down the stretch of the game when Steph Curry's going for 50, which is just criminal. I don't know what the hell Mike Brown's doing. But nevertheless, that's the best defense they got, is to score a bunch, score a bunch, score a bunch. That's not what we're doing. We're coming to stop you from doing what you do. And so when Dre tries to drive into the rim and all that stuff, I expect us to get him out of here, block them shots, keep him from doing that. You know, Clay and all those little drives, they can't get no drives off. Clay gonna hit his threes, Steph gonna hit his threes. But anytime they try to get in the lane, I'm expecting Anthony, Vando, Winyan, and whoever's on the floor to stop that nonsense. Rui, Braun, Swats. That's what I'm on. Because at the end of the day, they're gonna get their perimeter shots, but they need to be deterred from ever getting in the paint. They got to be deterred. We want them three-point shooters coming in shooting threes. Moses Moody, I want him jacking up 8, 9 threes. Because if he's overshooting, he ain't driving enough, and that's good for us. So these are the type of things I'm like, man, let's just keep them out the paint. Keep them out the paint. Respect that they want to rebound. Respect that they want to get in the paint. Respect that Steph Curry's could be crafty and hit all of his free throws, so you got to limit fouling him at all costs, especially from behind the arc, clearly. And, you know, these type of things are going to get us beat if we don't respect them. You know, Andrew Wiggins rebounding the ball, driving at the rim, defending on the perimeter, making life hard on our guys as they dribble past them. We're going to have to understand that getting past guys in this round is going to be a little difficult. So screening and rolling is going to be important. And please, we did such a horrible job fighting around screens against Ja Morant in the last series. If we do any of that against Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, we will see this series end very early with us being on the wrong side of it. Okay? Fighting them under screens, letting people rub you out of screens completely. How many times did we see Ja Morant get open three-point shots in the last 3 games of that series? When a man's faced up with him and they just run a screen and we just go under the screen instead of fighting through it. It happened every time. Dennis Schroeder did it. Austin Reeves did it. I don't know what that is, but I'm telling you, if you leave Steph Curry behind the arc to shoot 3, it's going to be what kills you. Ain't no question about it. So I don't like our coverage from behind the arc. I don't think we're the greatest perimeter defensive team, and we're going up against a team that's probably going to do nothing but shoot threes. So the nights are going to come where they shoot 50%, and we're going to let it happen, and that's the night that we're probably going to lose, and we just need to understand that. You know what I mean? So that's why I want us to make the changes necessary now to ensure that we have a good game plan for all of that damn shooting that they're going to be doing. So that's what I got to say. You know, they're lacking in athleticism. I'm going to be honest with you. When you look at Wiggins, he's athletic. As I look around that roster, not a whole lot of wiggliness, not a whole lot of leapingness. Kuminga, there's another one. Wiggins and Kuminga. They both can fly and dart around and do it. But the athleticism they provide themselves really is about jump shooting. It really is. It's layups and jump shooting. They ain't doing too much leaping. So we need to take advantage of that. We need to be doing the leaping. Simply put, lobs over their head. Because AD lobs, who's stopping that? Dre may be able to get to it once in a while. He ain't get to it too often. You know, Looney's a hell of a defender, but he ain't getting off the floor too often, not that high. And so these are things that I think we can just take advantage of. We got the lob threat that they don't potentially have down there. So let's use it. Use that. And test their transition defense, especially when Wiggins is not on the floor. Them long passes that we like to throw to Rui Hachimura and Anthony Davis, Braun, long passes to Austin Reeves, vice versa. I think that could potentially work in this series. I don't know that they're the greatest transition defensive team with that lacking athleticism when Wiggins ain't on the floor. When Wiggins on the floor, probably not. But like when it's Clay and Steph, there are going to be times for us to get back and score fast. Get back, especially with a guy like Rui Hachimura, they ain't going to stop that. Get back, score fast. Get back, score fast. You know what I mean? And that's something I think can work for us against this team. That's going to be jacking up a lot of threes, and some of them threes are going to clank. Long rebound, transition for that right there. Rui, get back, score fast. Because as long as we're sealing him out under the basket, that's easy buckets every night against everybody. I'm telling you. Every night, against everybody. I don't think there are too many teams left in these playoffs that are going to be able to deal with that big body dude as he's rushing at the rim, scoring buckets with fast break points to sealing off against smaller players. I mean, it's the first thing I thought of when we picked the player up. Let's just make sure that we have him in mismatch situations where he's the bigger guy shooting over little guys as often as humanly possible, because that's a score. That's a bucket. His mid-range jumper is a bucket. Give him the ball, man. The more we get the ball to Rui, the better. You know what I'm saying? Honestly, make Wiggins guard him. If we can make them put our best defender on somebody who's not our best offensive player, we win the series. I'll tell you right now. Golden State does not want to have to take Wiggins off of whoever it is they choose to put him on. They don't want to do that. They only got one Wiggins, and Gary Payton is still not quite where he needs to be with his conditioning to be putting him on Bron or somebody like that. He's too small. He's too small. So that's where they're hurting. They're going to need Looney to guard AD. They're going to need Dre to guard AD. And with respect to them dudes, they cannot. They cannot. Bron is going to be out there. Who is guarding Bron? Is that Dre? Is that going to work? Hell no, ain't going to work. And so this is what it really comes down to. We have advantages. Obviously, they have advantages. Steph Curry is the great advantage. He can shoot the ball and do what he did against Sacramento and send you home, which means you don't want to get to Game 7 with him. The key to the Golden State Warriors is not to get to Game 7 with him. You want to beat him in 6, just like I predicted. You want him out of here before he gets to that big moment where his talent can take over. You know what I'm saying? So that's really what it comes down to. Contain Wiggins. And I don't want to see Looney get no 20 rebound games in this series. I'm sorry, we're not the Kings. We ain't the Kings. And if we're rebounding like that, it's because we did some stupid crap where we put a bunch of guards on the floor against him. And it's not smart. If we do what we're supposed to do with the personnel we have, he will not do that. It just ain't happening. So that's really what it comes down to. That's one of their greatest strengths, and that's a strength we can neutralize. They just don't have enough size over there. They should have kept Wiseman. So that's really what it is, man. Their lack of Wiseman is going to get them beat. I tell you, they should have chose better. Jordan Poole is a hell of a player, so if he has a huge series where he's just going absolutely crazy, that's a difference maker, obviously. He can do that. He just hasn't been counted on to as of yet. But at any moment, his talent could start being ridiculous for us, and that can make them impossible to beat. If he's a 30-point scorer, Clay's a 30-point scorer, and Steph's a 30-point scorer, that's a lot of scoring. You don't expect it because Jordan is just he's just like this, but his talent comes from there. You know what I'm saying? He's one of those guys, touched by God, roll out of bed and just super, super gifted. That's Jordan Poole. So do not sleep on him. He's going to have big games in this series, I'd imagine. And he's going to have some bad ones, too. So that's just what it is with Jordan Poole. His development is backwards. They paid him, and then they want him to develop. That's kind of how that goes. So they THT'd him, but just in a much worse way. So, yeah, that's what I see there, man. I just see a lot of advantages for the Lakers, and then a lot to be afraid of in regard to Steph and Clay just continuing to hit shots with a lot of efficiency and taking advantage of bad lineups that we put on the floor and just the rookiness of our overall coach. That's where we're weak. The roster should be able to do it. The cachet of our superstars can match theirs, but strategy from Kerr to Ham, you just see the advantage there with Kerr until Ham proves otherwise. So that's really where I'm scared. As a fan, that's where I'm scared. It's not just Steph Curry's ability to shoot. It's Darvin Ham's ability to leave purposeful holes open for the other team to take advantage of. And you're going to see a lot of that in this series because it's just in its nature to do that. It's just what we know now about our team. Bad rotations will come. Even after making good rotations, we still got some bad stuff that he probably has concocted in his mind that he wants to use on Warriors that he's probably been thinking about all year long. So we just got to live with it, man. We got to live with the stuff he going to do and hope to God it translates to us having another 40-point blowout win in the closing game, because that's ultimately what it's about. As long as you can get us the victory and make us the victor in the series, however we get there, we will live with. We'll complain about all the way there, but in the end, if it ends like the Memphis series, we will be happy. And so that's what I'm hopeful we can do for ourselves. You know, my thing is, against the Golden State Warriors champions or anybody else for this particular unit, us, the Lakers, play less basketball. Do everything you can to make your life easier. Stay out of overtime situations, and definitely stay out of situations where you're giving back leads if you can. If you can, we got to be mindful. Every possession matters. Less basketball is our championship, because the more rest we have, the more energy we can throw at the teams that are coming. The more energy we can throw at the overtimes that are inevitable later as the playoffs progress. We want to limit the crap that we do that makes ourselves worse. And if we can do that, we'll expose the truth about our roster, which is it don't really have any weaknesses. It doesn't really have any. There are some things that we could do better, including perimeter defense. Obviously, we know that. And we're not the greatest three-point shooting team. We also know that. But other than that, we can pretty much do what we need to do to defeat mostly anybody who's left right now. We got the depth to beat a team like New York. We got the stars and the length to defeat a team like Boston or a team like Philly. And we got the cachet to defeat all these Western Conference teams that are left. We really do. Guy like Denver's team, they don't want to see us. That's not a good matchup for them on paper, and it hasn't been all season long. No matter what variation they put on the floor, it doesn't work for them. Going up against Anthony Davis, LeBron James, and what we have, that's data I'm willing to carry over, unlike this Golden State data, which is there, but I just don't respect as much because it's the Golden State Warriors. But with Denver, I trust we can beat them for real, man. I really do believe that, even though Jamal Murray is to be feared, no more so than anything we have down there. And so I love the experience that our guys are getting. When I look down there and I see Austin Reeves playing playoff minutes, I'm encouraged that he's getting this experience, and it's going to help us. Vanderbilt, same thing. D'Lo, same thing. These guys are going through something, I guess is what you could say, in regards to this experience is putting them in a position to now, when they walk away from this series, they'll be that much more ready for intense basketball, playoff-like basketball. And as it continues to increase, they're going to get that experience in this series right now. Going up against the Warriors, they're going to know a new level. You know, you're going to know a new level, young players, when you face what it is that Steph Curry and Klay Thompson go put us through right now. And look, I am cautiously optimistic that we can dominate this series. From game to game to game, we could very easily win every game we're in this series. Now, I don't expect to win every game we're in. There are going to be times when Steph Curry and Klay Thompson are going to do their thing. But what I'm telling you is, if we really look at this series on paper, we believe that we can win every game, if that makes any sense. We believe that we have the pieces to keep them from taking leads from us and to keep them from keeping leads themselves. I think that's the best way to say it. They should be in trouble every game they're in if we're playing well. So it's up to Darvin Ham, man. You put the wrong stuff on the floor. You ask Vanderbilt to be a three-point shooter, ask Beasley to be a three-point shooter. You know what I'm saying? Put Troy Brown on the floor with Dennis Schroeder and Malik Beasley and ask them to try to rebound over Kuminga and Looney. I promise you we're going to look as bad as we've looked in certain times in the season. We're going to look bad and get beat. And we're going to be mad and all of that. I mean, like, some of that stuff is just, that's how that works. You put this on the floor, we get beat, we get angry. So let's try to identify when we did what, that we did that, and it turned out this way, and then from there not do it again. That's what I want. Just not do it again. Putting two guards on the floor who are under 6'4" is a bad thing for the LA Lakers. Period. Gotta have size on the floor, man. If you want to use Beasley, make sure everybody else is tall. You know, if you want to use Schroeder, make sure everybody else is tall. And we got the roster for it. We totally can. And so that's what I'm saying. I just want to see common sense applied to the situation. I don't need 3-point guards and 2 power forwards down there when I'm going up against the best offense in the league. I need defensive players and defensive principles that are going to give us rebounding and the ability to have advantages on the basketball floor, and to be able to have the ability to get stops, at least the ability to get them. There were games in the Memphis series where we literally punted defense with certain lineups. We had no defensive principles on the floor whatsoever. Everything was meant to get Malik Beasley shooting buckets and live and die with that. Like, if that's the hole you're going to leave open, you're going to have a bunch of angry fans. Now, if that hole's only left open to psych the other team out so that they think that hole will be open when they need it to be and it won't be, strategy. But I'm telling you, from night to night, if these decisions get us beat, we're not going to understand it, man. So that's what I'm trying to get Darvin Ham to understand. The fullness of the series. If we're happy in the end, we'll be happy how we get there, just like I said. But I'm telling you, some of the stuff that we're doing is just like, bro, are we trying to lose? Do you have money on the game? You can't convince real basketball brains that this stuff isn't sabotage, brother. You can't do that. But I understand. Don't like it, but I understand. So that's what I'm trying to tell everybody else. We are learning as we go along these playoffs, and whether or not Darvin Ham is a good strategist in the playoffs or a bad strategist is something that we just going to have to learn as we continue to watch. That's really what it is. But I do like, all in all, what we have in front of us, an opportunity to beat a team that, even though we should respect, we also look and see that we have what we need. We have what we need to not be disappointed in ourselves. So that's really what it is, man. I think the Golden State Warriors are legitimately in a battle for their playoff lives. I don't want to say they're in trouble. I think it's a little disrespectful to say that about the reigning champs. I just don't want to use that type of rhetoric. But otherwise, yes. Otherwise, that is the case. I think they're in a bit of trouble. And I think it's not because of any other truth than just Anthony Davis, Vanderbilt, Rui Hachimura, LeBron James. I just see too many capable forwards pushing at them. And they're going to shoot a lot of threes and they're going to win some games doing so, but not 4 of them. So that's what I got to say. That is my thought for the day. Video 44. I thank you all for watching.